From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
To ensure that our brightest days are ahead of us, we must commit ourselves to progressive ideas that will lift us all up. It won't be easy, but it is essential.
As Bill de Blasio wins in a landslide, becoming New York City's first Democratic mayor in 2 decades, former Democratic National Committee Chair Terry McAuliffe wins the governorship in Virginia, and Chris Christie is reelected in New Jersey. We'll speak with the nation's John Nichols on Tuesday's results. Then a New York City police officer risks his job by speaking out against the department's stop-and-frisk practices.
If you want me to arrest somebody, and I have never, ever stopped putting cuffs on anybody because they're white, because they're black, because they're blue. I'll handcuff anybody who's committing a crime. But when you take that, he's a male black, he's 14, 15, he's walking down the corner, he doesn't look like he belongs here. Cuff him. Cuff him for what?
Then an independent panel says U.S. military doctors have violated medical ethics by enabling the torture of prisoners at Guantanamo and secret prisons overseas. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Election Day was held Tuesday, deciding state and local races across the country. In Virginia, former Democratic National Committee Chair Terry McAuliffe was elected governor, defeating Tea Party-backed Ken Cuccinelli, the state's attorney general. McAuliffe's victory was seen as a rebuke of the Tea Party-backed government shutdown that impacted many of the state's workers. In New Jersey, Republican Governor Chris Christie easily won re-election, laying groundwork for a possible presidential run in 2016. Here in New York, Bill de Blasio won an overwhelming victory to become the city's first Democratic mayor in 2 decades.
The challenges we face have been decades in the making, and the problems we set out to address will not be solved overnight. But make no mistake, the people of this city have chosen a progressive path. And tonight we set forth on it, together as one city.
Election Day also saw votes on a number of contested ballot measures. In Washington state, voters rejected an initiative that would have required the labeling of genetically modified foods. Major corporations and other opponents of GMO labeling spent over $20 million to defeat the measure. Meanwhile, backers of a measure to impose a $15 minimum wage at Seattle's International Airport and surrounding hotels have declared victory. New Jersey voters approved a constitutional amendment to raise the minimum wage by $1 to $8.25 an hour and add automatic cost of living increases each year. In Maine, the city of Portland became the first on the East Coast to legalize recreational marijuana. In Colorado, voters have approved a 25% sales tax on recreational marijuana after voting in favor of legalization a year ago. 3 out of 4 Colorado cities also voted to ban the gas drilling process of fracking. A similar ban failed in 2 out of the 3 cities where it was on the ballot in Ohio. We'll have more on Election Day after headlines. Illinois is poised to become the 15th state to legalize same-sex marriage. The Illinois Senate gave final passage to the measure Tuesday night, hours after narrow approval in the State House. Illinois Governor Pat Quinn has vowed to sign the measure into law. President Obama continues a public campaign to rally support for immigration reform. On Tuesday, Obama hosted a group of corporate executives at the White House. Obama said he believes there's enough congressional support to overcome opposition from hardline Republicans.
It's my estimation that we actually have the votes to get comprehensive immigration reform done in the House right now. The politics are challenging for the Speaker and others, and we want to make it as easy for them as possible. This is not an issue where we're looking for a political win. This is one where we're looking for a substantive win for the U.S. economy and the American people and the businesses that are represented here.
The International Peace Conference in Syria has been delayed after initial hopes for a meeting this month. On Tuesday, UN envoy Lakhdar Brahimi said the U.S. and Russia have failed to agree on key details, including participants and when the meeting would take place. Brahimi also said Syria's opposition faces continued divisions.
We were hoping that we would be in a position to announce a date today. Unfortunately, we are not. But we are still striving to see if we can have the conference before the end of the year. The opposition has a very, very difficult time. They are divided. It's no secret for anybody. And they are facing all sorts of problems, and they are working very, very hard to get ready. And they are not ready.
Iran has invited the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency for a visit as early as next week. Talks on establishing an inspection regime for Iran's nuclear program have stalled since Yukiya Amano's last visit in May of 2012. On Tuesday, Amano presented his latest report, saying his agency cannot verify Iran's programs entirely peaceful.
The agency continues to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material declared by Iran under its safeguard agreement. However, we are unable to provide credible assurance about the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities. The agency, therefore, cannot conclude that all nuclear material in Iran is in peaceful activities.
Ahead of the IAEA's expected visit, Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says he believes Iran could reach a nuclear deal with international powers, including the U.S., as early as this week. Iranian officials are meeting foreign counterparts in Geneva beginning on Thursday. It's the second round of talks on Iran's nuclear program since moderate President Hassan Rouhani took office in August. Israel's reportedly told the Palestinian Authority the separation wall cutting through the occupied West Bank will serve as the border of their future state. Palestinian officials have long sought a state within the 1967 borders before Israel conquered the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. The International Court of Justice has previously declared the route of the separation wall illegal for going beyond the 1967 borders to incorporate major Israeli settlement blocks. The Israeli declaration of the separation wall as the future border comes just as Secretary of State John Kerry has arrived in Israel to encourage ongoing U.S.-brokered talks. Kerry spoke after visiting a memorial for Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin.
I come here without any illusions about the difficulties, but I come here determined to work with leaders, with the Prime Minister, with the President of the Palestinian Authority, to try to find a way forward so that Israel can live the dream of President Peres and of Prime Minister Rabin expressed so eloquently and beautifully in the tragedy of that day here and in many days before that. We will continue to work, and I can promise Israelis that America will stand by the side of Israel every step of the way.
Hundreds of masked demonstrators gathered outside the White House Tuesday for a protest dubbed the Million Mask March. Organized by the hacktivist group Anonymous, participants called attention to issues including NSA surveillance and government corruption. Similar rallies were held in cities worldwide as part of Guy Fawkes Day, the commemoration of a failed effort to blow up the British Parliament in 1605. In London, protesters gathered on the Westminster Bridge to collectively burn their energy bills in what organizers called a bonfire of austerity.
So what people are doing is piling energy bills on the bonfire because at the moment energy bills are soaring because the big six energy companies are effectively holding consumers across the country to ransom. They've hiked energy prices by up to over 10% in many cases at a time of the longest fall in living standards since Queen Victoria sat on the throne of this country. It's going to drive 9 million people into fuel poverty. It is going to kill elderly people as well.
Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky has announced a restructuring of his office practices after being accused of plagiarism. Over the past week, Paul has been found to have used other people's language without attribution in a speech, an article, and congressional testimony, and in a section of his book. On Tuesday, Paul acknowledged his office has made mistakes and said he'll ensure his public statements are properly footnoted from now on. The mayor of Canada's largest city is refusing to resign after admitting he used crack cocaine. Toronto's Rob Ford had faced months of controversy following reports of a video showing him smoking from a crack pipe and making bigoted remarks. Toronto police recently announced they'd recovered the video after arresting a Ford associate on charges of extortion. On Monday, Ford acknowledged his crack use to reporters.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine. But no. Do I? Am I an addict? No.
When have you?
Have I tried it? Probably in one of my drunken stupors, probably approximately about a year ago. I answered your question. You asked the question properly. I'll answer it.
How many
yes,
times?
I've made mistakes. All I can do now is apologize and move on.
Have
I don't know what. Oh, guys, whoa, okay. Can I just?
Yes, please.
All I can say is I've made mistakes. And you guys kept referring to alcohol. There was a couple isolated incidents. There's been times when I've been in a drunken stupor. That's why I want to see the tape.
During the course of their investigation, police surveillance documented Ford exchanging packages with a man ultimately detained for extortion. At a news conference hours after his admission of crack use, Ford apologized to Toronto voters but rejected calls to step down, saying, in fact, he plans to seek re-election next year. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.